Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to play a few seconds of this for you, and I want you to tell me if you recollect this as the first or second encounter with police officers. Okay.
It's been a year and a half, so I mean, time okay.
Now, you both agree before I play this that the first encounter was a friendly one, correct?
Yes.
During the first encounter, nobody slammed you on the ground,
No.
right?
No.
Nobody put a flashlight in your mouth.
No, it's just like a well check, basically, to make sure I was okay. That's it.
Okay. And then between the first and second encounter, there's a period of minutes, correct?
Correct.
About how many?
Maybe 7 or 8.
Okay.
That's just a guesstimate.
So I'm going to play part of this, and I want you to tell me if you, I'm going to stop it and tell me if you recollect whether it's the first or second. There's going to be a period of silence for 30 seconds until the audio picks up.
Central 13 view. Under Seabreeze Bridge, 4658, E Echo H Hotel B Bravo. We'll be over on Tulsa.
And now, ma'am, the your recollection, is this the first or second encounter?
I believe that was the second attempt.
I think it's the second encounter. Okay. What makes you think that now?
Because when he first came up to the car, he just, what are you doing? Are you okay? He didn't run my information until the second time.
But the first encounter, there was no harm that came
No.
at all. You didn't get out of the vehicle.
Nothing.
No.
I was in the vehicle.
All right. You were in the vehicle the whole time during the
Yes.
first encounter.
Yes.
Okay. Let's continue to watch.
Delta 55 Central 1 by name of birth out of birth. No, you are. Just since you nobody down there, this kind of sitting near the door, open it up, Smith Shirley, and the last name Chippewa, common spelling. Charlie Hotel India, Papa, Echo Whiskey Alpha. First name Christine with a C, common spelling, the initial E Echo. Date of birth is 4/4/1977, white female.
Let me stop again, then again, ma'am. Did you have any issue with the first encounter with the officers?
Issue meaning?
Any problem?
No.
Now, after having watched him spell out your name, using Whiskey Alpha, Papa, all that business, and the name of that will come to me eventually. Phonetic. Thank you. Does that help refresh your recollection of whether or not this was the first encounter or the second encounter with the officers?
Like I said, the first encounter, he had just come up and checked on me. So the second encounter is when he was getting all the information.
Let me ask you something. When I was, before we went on the break, when we watched the videotape, you said initially, emphatically, that he checked your license during the first encounter. Do you recall that?
Yes, I do recall that.
And what made you change your mind then?
Not the first encounter, because you're like confusing me. Like I said,
What
it's
was
been a year and a
confusing
half.
about my question?
It's just confusing me. It's been a year and a half. I can't, it's not that vivid to me. So I'm telling you what I do remember from that night.
So your memory is foggy of the events?
It's not foggy. I mean, there's bits and pieces I remember. You do have to remember that I was kicked in the head, so I do have some injuries that are, relevant to my memory. So,
Okay, so you're
I
claiming...
get severe migraines now. I can barely, when I get migraines, I can barely open my eyes. I'm in a lot of pain.
So it's your testimony, I don't want to interrupt your attention. So it's your testimony that the kick that that was allegedly delivered to your head that night caused you long-term neurological problems?
Well, I never had it before.
Is it your testimony
Yes.
that the kick that you claim you received that head that night has given you long-term neurological problems,
Yes.
including a memory deficit?
Yes. I'm not a doctor, I wouldn't say memory deficit, but.
Well, you just said
you know.
yes. So
Okay,
you
well-
can't say yes and then change the story. But
Well, I'm not a doctor.
The person's
I'm not a neurologist, so I can't, you know, but
Have you
if,
seen a doctor about this, man?
no, I don't have any money at all, you know, I don't, was never medical care, nothing, so. I never got the results of the CAT scans or nothing, so.
The doctor at the emergency room never explained the results of the CAT scan to you?
Nothing.
You ever asked him what the results of this CAT scan were?
No, they hauled me off to jail pretty quick, that was their main, you know, priority.
Well, don't you think, ma'am, that if the doctor had observed any problem with your head or brain, any swelling, any bruising, any contusion to your head that was causing some type of pressure on your brain or otherwise injury to your brain, he would have told you that night, don't you think?
I object, that calls for speculation, she can't answer that.
Well, I'll rephrase the question. Did the doctor tell you that night that you had any injury to your brain after we received the CAT scan?
Yes, not injury to my brain, he said that there was a lot of swelling to my brain, that's why he did 2 CAT scans. He did one and then he did another one.
Okay, so you're saying the doctor at the ER, do you happen to remember his name?
It's been a year and a half, my memory's foggy.
Caucasian gentleman,
Yes,
older?
yes.
Okay. He told you that night before you were taken...
He was very concerned about my head being swollen, that's why he was the one that insisted on ordering a CAT scan.
The doctor that night that you saw, you testified, told you that you had swelling of the brain.
No, he did not say no swelling of the brain, my head was swollen.
And you said not 3 minutes ago that the doctor told you you had swelling of the brain. Is this more fogginess than memory?
I object, that's all you want.
I'll rephrase the question. You said, you remember saying not 3 minutes ago that the doctor told you you had swelling of the brain, correct?
Correct.
So did he or didn't he tell you that?
He didn't. I mean, it was too early to detect something like that.
But you think, you know, you live in your body, you certainly know your body better than anyone.
Yes.
You think from the point of this arrest, from the point the alleged kick was delivered until today,
Yes.
you've suffered a memory deficit, memory loss.
No.
You do know, if not 4 minutes ago, you said exactly the opposite, don't you?
Object, this is also on.
Do you agree? You told me not 4 or 5 minutes ago that you've suffered a memory loss since the kick that was beat.
I don't remember everything
Hold
from
on,
that
let
night.
me finish my
Okay,
question.
I'm not a doctor, but I don't
Do you
remember
remember?
everything from that
Didn't
night.
you tell me not 4 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago?
Yes, you're right, you're
Let me
correct.
just finish the question. Did you not tell me 4 or 5 minutes ago that you have suffered a memory loss, memory deficit as a result of the alleged kick you received on the night in question up until today?
Yes. But that doesn't say that I don't remember nothing from that night. So,
During the first encounter, the officers conducted a welfare check. That's what you said earlier, right?
Yes.
Did they ask you your name?
I don't recall.
Okay. Did they ask you for identification?
I don't recall.
Did they ask you for a driver's license?
I don't recall.
Did you have a driver's license with you on that night?
Yes.
And you can't recall one way or the other when that you handed it over to them?
I don't recall.
Do you think a little unusual that an officer would do a well-being check and not ask the checkee, the person they're checking out, what their name is, and ask for their identification? Is that unusual?
Object, compound, argumentative, calls for speculation from this one.
I'll rephrase the question. Ma'am, I want you to think hard. And I realize your memory's foggy, but I want you to think hard. Isn't it true, ma'am, that Officer Random asked you for your identification during the first encounter?
Object, this has been asked and answered. He's asked her these questions.
And her memory has...
She's answered the question, so he's going back
Gone to and
and
fro.
re-asking him the question she's answered these questions already.
Very well. Now, did you hear Officer Booth tell other officers that he kicked you on the head? Let me rephrase that. Have you watched the videos from this incident, ma'am?
Bits and pieces.
When's the last time you watched them?
When it was aired publicly in May.
Now, do you recall, from your own personal observation or through watching the videos, Officer Booth stating that he kicked you in the head?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. Do you recall, from your own personal observations that night, or from watching the video, that Officer Booth stated he kicked you in the head?
He admitted to me he did.
Did you hear him talk about it to other officers?
No.
Now, before we went on the break, you said that you had gone down there to see friends, correct?
Yes.
And you said that they're homeless people and sometimes they sleep in that area,
Yeah.
correct? And you said you were taking them money,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
How much money were you taking?
I had, I think, $200.
$200. Okay.
Because I get a check every 6 months from the Indian tribe, and it's a good amount, so, and
Okay.
it's a couple, and I thought they could use it at the time.
Okay. Now, how long had you known these friends at this time?
Maybe about 4 or 5 months.
And did they have any address at all? Any place that they stayed at that point in time?
Down by the boat ramp.
They stay anywhere else?
Nothing I'm aware of.
And what are their names now?
James. I don't know his last name. And I know her name is Sheila.
You don't know her last name either?
No.
Now, I trust $200 is a lot of money to you, right?
Well,
It is
yeah.
to me. Is it a lot of money to you?
Well, yeah, now it is, yeah.
Was it a lot of money to you at the time?
Not really. I mean, I can afford to give it away, so.
Let me have this marked as
It's his first statement.
yeah. You
I
have
have it at 21, city book.
Union 2 is City 21. Ma'am, do you remember, well, I think you testified on direct by Mr. Booth that you gave a statement to Internal Affairs?
I'm sorry.
You recall on direct examination by Mr. Wood that you were asked if you gave a statement to Internal Affairs, correct?
To a detective. If he was-
Okay. And the detective in this case was Nate Williams, is that
Correct.
Okay. Now, do you recall being recorded, the interview being recorded at the time of the interview?
Yes.
And what I've, didn't give you a copy of it.
She has it in the book too.
Well, this is your policy. I present you as marked as Union's Exhibit Number 2. And I'm representing you, this is a transcription of the interview you gave to Detective Nate Williams on June 20, 2013. The audio was transcribed by Detective Shore over there. Do you have any reason to believe that Detective Shore didn't accurately transcribe the audio statement you gave?
No.
Let me direct your attention, ma'am, to, I guess about, not quite halfway down the page, and it has the initial NW beside it. He says, okay, as I stated earlier. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. And that's Nate Williams. He states, okay, as I stated earlier, this is the interview is in reference to an incident that had taken place on the 13th of this month involving yourself, Officer Justin Random and Officer Matthew Booth. If you could just tell me how it is you came to be involved in this incident from the outset. And you respond.
Yes.
Yes, I had borrowed my boyfriend's car, and it's a stick shift, and whatever, and I hadn't driven a stick shift in a long time anyway. I had gone down underneath the Sea Breach Bridge to see my friends had been fishing. They're fishing. It's a married couple, and they were boyfriend and girlfriend, and they weren't down there fishing, so I waited and waited to see if they came around or whatever, because I had some clothes for them.
Yes.
Okay? I've read this interview probably a dozen times, man. There's no reference to you being down there to give them money.
Okay.
There's only a reference to you giving them clothes. Do you disagree with that characterization?
Yeah, well, I had both. I don't, you know.
You didn't
I tried
mention
to
it.
give every detail of everything I was giving them that night, but,
You you had enough detail to give them the clothes, but not enough detail to give them the cash.
Yeah, well, I didn't
Right?
have the cash at the, when I had planned on bringing the clothes down, so I already had the clothes.
Okay.
for like a few days.
Okay. But you didn't
And
see
it wasn't
fit-
until like the last minute I was gonna give him money, so,
Okay. But you mentioned the clothes.
yes.
And the clothes, were the clothes new? Were they old?
They were used, they weren't brand new clothes,
Okay. But the more significant thing you were going to be giving them was the money, correct?
basically, yeah.
But you didn't make any mention of that in your internal affairs, did you?
No.
Okay. Now, how much other cash did you have on you that night, ma'am?
I think that was all that I had. It's about $200.
Okay. And you didn't have $600 on your person?
No.
Now, you also testified on direct examination by Mr. Wood that you stayed in the car the entire time that you were present at the boat ramp. Do you recall that?
Yes, I was in the club.
Okay. Let me have you read on just a little bit in this same paragraph. And it starts right after the descent to the close. You know, I got out of the car and walked and looked around for them on the bank and stuff. Didn't see them because sometimes they sleep down there.
Yeah.
So I get back in my car. So you did leave the car.
Yeah, I did leave the car to look for my friends, and then I got back in the car.
But you testified on direct examination by Mr. Wood that you didn't leave the car at all. Do you recall that?
No, I don't recall that.
Okay, I just asked you a moment ago if you recall that. You said yes. You said you didn't leave the car.
I object to that. That's a mischaracterization of the testimony. The record will reflect what she testified to. She didn't get out of the car when the officers first approached her.
Let's let the record reflect it then move on. I certainly disagree with your characterization.
I was not out of my car when the officers arrived at any point. That's what I was stating.
Okay, so now is your testimony that you did not leave your car at any point while the officers were on the scene?
When the officers were on the scene, I was not out of my car until they had asked me to get out of my car to search it. Before they were there, yes.
A little bit farther in that same paragraph. You state, Officer Ram and Officer Booth had pulled and asked me what was going on, da. They ran my name, and I explained to them that what was going on, and they ran my name. Well, everything came back, clear with them, and so they went back, and they were sitting in their cars, and that was parked behind me. So, ma'am, does this at all help refresh your recollection, ma'am, of whether or not that it was during the first encounter that the officers asked you your name, ran your name, used the phonetic language about spelling your name in the dispatcher, and they received word back you had no warrants? Does that refresh your recollection at all?
No, it sure doesn't.
Well, here you agree that you stated very clearly that during the first encounter, because you stayed here, they walked back to their car. So would you agree with me, ma'am, that it was during the first encounter that they asked you your name, asked you for your ID, ran your name, got them all clear that you had no warrants?
No, I don't recall.
Well, can you read?
That's the argument.
You can certainly read what this says, right?
Yes, I can read, thank you. I'm not illiterate.
No, I understand.
Okay.
But you agree with me, that's what you testified to. That it was during the first encounter that they asked you for your name, ran your name, used phonetic language to spell your name, and were advised you didn't have any warrants and walked away. Correct?
Object. That's the answer. It's a mischaracterization of the testimony.
How is it mischaracterization of her testimony?
Because you just said she said was this was the first encounter, and she's never testified to that.
No, you don't
so
testify.
you're trying to get her to testify to that, and maybe you can refresh her memory.
In her statement, she states that they ran my name, and I explained to them. I believe that you asked, in your question, you said about showing ID. I do not
Okay.
see that statement here.
I'll rephrase the question then, sir. Isn't it true, ma'am, that in your IA statement, it was given within what, 2 or 3 weeks of the incident?
2 days.
2 days of the incident. You told Detective Nate Williams that Booth pulled up and Random pulled up and they asked you what was going on, da-da-da-da-da. they ran your name, and I explained to them what was going on, and they ran my name. Well, everything came back, and clear with them, and then they went back, and they were sitting in their cars. Do you see where you said that, ma'am?
Yes, I see that. I can read, yes.
Good. Now, don't you feel that contradicts your testimony
Yes,
here
it
today?
does.
And wouldn't you agree with me, ma'am, that your testimony 2 days after the incident would be better than your memory today? Let me rephrase that question. Wouldn't you agree that your memory 2 days after the incident, after the arrest, would be better than your memory 2 years later today?
Well, let me ask you, if you got kicked in the head severely, wouldn't it? I mean, wouldn't your memory be better 2 days after than as opposed to a year and a half?
I'm afraid in this context, ma'am, I can't answer your question.
So,
Why don't you
well,
answer
yeah.
mine?
I
Why
am.
don't you answer my question,
I am.
please? Would you agree with me, ma'am, that your memory would have been clearer about what happened 2 days after the incident, where you gave this particular statement to the police about what happened during the first encounter, than your testimony today?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you testified upon direct examination by Mr. Wood. You were asked a question, I think you were asked a question, something like, did you bite Officer Booth?
Correct.
And you responded, no.
No,
You didn't bite Officer Booth.
no, didn't I?
All right, let me turn your attention then to then may I ask what exhibit of the city was Miss Chippewa's citizen complaint form?
It is at 19.
They have turn page, or tab 19 rather, ma'am. Okay, let me direct your attention to the second page. Let's start with a sentence that reads, it's about halfway down. I was slammed? That's slammed.
I'm not sure where you're at.
About midway down.
I see.
Okay. I was slammed on the ground, and Officer Rand's knee was in my back, and I couldn't breathe. Officer Booth had put the bottom of the flashlight in my mouth to pry it open. Upon this, Officer Booth's finger got bit. You see that?
No.
So you did bite Officer Booth's finger, didn't you?
No, I was just writing down what was being said. You see, it kept saying his finger got bit, his finger got bit, so that's what I've written down.
Ma'am, you don't indicate anywhere in here, do you, that that's something that Booth said, do you?
Nope.
You simply said, upon this, Officer Booth's finger got bit.
Yes,
Right?
because that's what I was told.
So,
So I assumed his finger got bit.
okay. But yet you didn't.
Because that's what he told me
you
when I
didn't-
asked him why he kicked me in the head, and he said, because I bit his finger. So that's what I wrote it, that's why I wrote that in the report.
But you didn't attribute that statement to Officer Booth in this citizen complaint form, did you?
No, and I should have.
No. let me have you turn back to Union's exhibit number 2, please. And have you turn to page 10. Actually, the bottom of 9, top of page 10. Let's start with page 9. You state at the bottom there, and this is Detective Williams is still asking questions. Yes, she had come into the room. You recall what she you're referring to there? Is that Officer Melanie Markham?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, she had come into the room and she had asked Booth. Officer Booth was up like by the sink, finishing doing inventory in my purse, and I know I had to go up there and sign for my stuff. And I asked him, I said, you kicked me in the back of the head because I bit your finger. And you state, I said that was an accident. So clear, ma'am, aren't you admitting there that you bit his finger?
No.
What are you stating there, ma'am? I'm curious. He states that you bit my finger. You said that's an accident. What are you saying? You're saying I
If I bit
didn't
his
mean
finger,
to.
why didn't he get medical treatment when the paramedics came?
Ma'am, I'm asking questions now, and you can ask questions of me if there's time after the
There
arbitration.
probably won't be, but okay.
Probably not.
Probably not.
But you said that was an accident.
Correct.
And you were referring to biting his finger, weren't you?
Correct.
Okay, so you did bite his finger.
I can't say 100%. I'm just going by what they had said, so. I didn't see any injury to his finger, nothing.
I didn't ask you if you saw any injury to his finger. Did you bite his finger, ma'am? You certainly said it here in your IA statement on page 10. You said it again in your citizen complaint form. And you wrote your citizen complaint form 2 days after the incident, roughly 2 or 3 days after the incident occurred. And your IA statement was only days after the incident occurred.
Correct.
We've already established your memory was better then than it is now, right?
Yes.
So you did bite his finger.
We're just going by what's on writing.
You
sure.
did, so you did bite his finger, didn't you?
I guess. I don't.
Now, after the first encounter with the officers, you didn't try to drive away, right?
No.
Okay. And you didn't tell the police officers as they were walking away from the car after the first encounter, you didn't want to speak to them again, did you?
No, I didn't think they were going to come back.
Okay. And you didn't make any efforts to, get out of the area so they wouldn't approach you again, did you?
I tried to start the car.
Now, did you lock your doors?
No, because there was 2 cops sitting behind me.
You felt secure?
Yeah, I felt secure.
Okay.
Was I wrong?
Were your windows up or down?
I don't recall.
Now, you said, I think, and I'm sure Mr. Wood will correct me if I'm wrong, that 7 to 10 minutes elapsed, you believe, in between the first and second encounters, correct?
It's a guesstimate. It's not accurate.
Okay.
It wasn't a very long time. It wasn't like a half an hour, 45 minutes. It was.
Okay. Now, at what point do you tell the officers that you're out of gas? The first encounter or the second encounter?
I don't recall.
You do recognize you told them you're out of gas, correct?
Yes.
You also told them that you were on the phone with your boyfriend and going to call your boyfriend and have him come get you, correct?
Correct.
So there was no need for the officers to call for assistance for you because you told them that your boyfriend was coming to Lindale, right?
Yes. He was
You-
trying to get a hold of his brother to bring him down there.
Okay. So there was no need for the police officers to call a tow truck, to call AAA, to call anyone for you. You were taken care of by your boyfriend,
So.
right?
Yes.
Now, During the intervening, and I know this is not a precise timeline, but during the intervening minutes, 7 to 10, whatever that period of time was, what were you doing in the car?
Just sitting there, trying to get hold of my boyfriend. I was on the phone.
Okay. You're on the phone with your boyfriend for
Yes, I was
throughout
trying
that
to
period of
text
time.
him. Yes,
So was it a voice call or text?
text.
Okay, so at any point was your boyfriend on the phone with you during any part of the encounters with the Daytona Beach police
Yes.
officers?
Yes.
Okay, so
And
it's a
I-
combination.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Now,
The text messages weren't going through, so then I tried calling him.
So were you using speakerphone or was the phone to your ear?
The phone was to my ear.
Now, were you moving around the vehicle at all?
Can you be a little bit more
Sure,
specific?
absolutely. Were you trying to find something in the back seat? Trying to find something in the bottom floorboard of the front seat? Were you moving around the vehicle at all?
The Mazda Miatas, they don't have a back seat, so if
No.
I was, maybe the front seat, but no.
Okay, so you were stationary in your vehicle.
I wasn't sitting there stoic. I mean, might have been moving around. I have had previous incidences with Officer Raynham, so yes, he did make me a little nervous when he came in contact with me.
Sitting here today, do you remember any specific movements you made in the car in between the first and second encounters with Officers Random and Booth?
My memory is foggy, no, I don't.
Do you remember raising your arms above your head for any reason?
I don't recall.
Do you recall yelling at any point?
I don't recall.
Do you recall turning on and off the light?
I don't recall.
Do you recall opening and closing the driver's side door?
I don't recall.
Were you under the influence of anything that night, man?
No, sir.
Do you agree that at the hospital they found opiates in your blood?
Yes.
How do you explain the presence of opiates in your blood?
I don't think that's really any of your business. I mean, I wasn't under the influence that night of it.
Well, if you have opiates in your blood, it could be that you're under the influence.
It takes a while for that to get in your system, I believe. So I don't think, in an hour that opiates are going to get into your blood.
Well,
So
just answer my question, unless there's some objection or the arbitrator tells me to move in a different direction, which I certainly will. Why were there opiates in your system?
because they were.
Okay. Was it because you had been taking illegal drugs
Yes.
that evening?
No.
Here, you just a moment. Thank you. Now, let's talk about the second encounter. Who approaches your vehicle for the second encounter?
The first and the second time, Officer Raynham was the one that approached the vehicle.
And you recollect what words came out of Officer Rand's mouth on the second occasion he
I
approached
don't
you?
recall.
Okay. Do you recall him saying anything, hey, are you okay?
I don't recall.
You don't recall anything he said at all?
I don't recall.
Now, do you recall Officer Booth saying anything specific during the second encounter while you're still in the car?
No.
Okay. Now, do you recall telling them during the second encounter that, hey, you're not going to believe this, I'm not really out of gas, I just forgot to push the clutch in?
Yes.
Now, do you agree with me that you drove the vehicle from Ormond Beach for 10 or 15 minutes to the Seabreeze Bridge using the stick shift, right?
I clearly stated it was between Daytona and Ormond, and it was about 10 minutes away.
Okay. So during that 10 minutes, you were forced to use the manual transmission of the vehicle, correct? Okay. And so you understood, you testified before, you understood when you left the hotel that you needed to push the clutch in to get the vehicle to turn on, correct? And so is it your testimony that you've forgotten that in the 10-minute drive from Daytona/Ormond Beach to under the Seabreeze Bridge?
Well, like I clearly stated a few minutes ago, I had previous encounters with Officer Raynham. He made me really nervous when he approached the car.
So you lied to him?
No, I didn't lie to him.
Okay, so let me back up and you can answer my question. Did from the point you left Daytona/Ormond, whatever that point was, 10-minute drive to under the Seabreeze Bridge, did you forget that you need to push the clutch in order to start the vehicle?
I was nervous, yes, correct, yeah. I was nervous. I was trying to get out of there as quick as possible because I didn't want to be harassed by Officer Raynham like I had been previously.
Okay. And so when you told Officer Raynham, you're not going to believe this, but I didn't run out of gas, I just forgot to push the clutch in, that wasn't the truth. You were just trying to...
I was nervous.
You were nervous. So what you told him wasn't the truth, was it?
What do you say?
I'm trying to ask you, did you tell him the truth when you said you forgot to push did you tell him the truth when you said you forgot to push the clutch in, and that's the reason the car wouldn't start?
I don't recall.
You certainly knew that you had to push the clutch in to make the car work.
Well,
It's
yeah.
been asked
but
and answered.
I'll move on. All right. Do you understand how an officer might find your explanation about why the car wouldn't start suspicious?
I guess. I don't.
Now, after you tell Officer Raynham this, what does Officer Raynham say?
What do you mean, after the first or the second?
After you tell him that you're not going to believe this, I'm not out of gas.
I don't recall.
Let me just finish the question. After you tell Officer Raynham that you're not going to believe this, I'm not really out of gas, I just forgot to push the clutch in, what does Officer Raynham say to you next?
I think he asked me to step out of the car.
But you're not 100% on that, correct?
Not 100%.
All right, let me direct your attention again to page 1 of that Union 2, your statement AIA. Let me direct your attention down to about 3/4 of the way down. I can point to it. Then it's about 3/4 of the way down. You'll see the word officer on the far right-hand corner.
Right side? Yes, that's it.
See that? You see that? No? Right? See that? Great. Do you know where we are, Mr. Prosper?
Yes,
Okay, great. All right. Now, you're right. I tried to start it up. It started up, and that's when Officer Raynham had walked up to the driver's side, driver's door. And I told him, that I didn't put the foot in the clutch or whatever. And he's like, that's just too suspicious. And then he asked me if he could search the car, and I said, yes, go ahead and search the car. So, a couple days after the incident, you recollected that what Officer Raynham said to you after you told him you forgot to push the clutch in was that he asked to search your car.
Yes, he asked me to step out of the vehicle so he could search my car.
Okay. Well, you indicate in this document that he asked you to step out of the car, did he? Did you?
Well, how's he going to search the car if I'm sitting in it?
Or didn't you voluntarily get out of the car, ma'am?
He asked if he could search the car, and I said yes. I volunteered, yeah.
And you got out
I
of the car?
agree. Well, he asked me to get out of the car and step to the front of the car.
And now, you volunteered for them to search your purse, correct?
Yeah, I handed it to him. Go ahead. I don't
And
have
you
nothing
weren't,
to hide.
in fact, you weren't even asked. You just handed it to them.
They asked if they could search my car. My purse was in the car, so I assumed they were gonna search the purse too,
Okay.
because that's what most cops do.
Now, when they came up to you for the second time, were there blue, red flashers on? Their emergency lights, were they on?
I don't recall.
Was there a searchlight on you? Searchlights they have on the left-hand sides of the vehicles?
There was some light on, yes.
Okay. Couldn't have flashlight, right?
No.
Okay. You think it,
I don't recall. I don't
Okay.
recall.
All right. And they didn't walk up to the car with their guns drawn, did they?
No.
Okay.
Surprising.
And they didn't try to, they didn't park, neither one of them parked their vehicle in front of yours or in back of yours, so you couldn't walk or drive away, correct?
No.
And they didn't tell you you couldn't leave, did they?
No.
Now, which of the officers searched your car?
Officer Booth searched the car.
Very good. Okay. Now, you said you were at the front of your vehicle when Officer Booth was searching the car?
Officer Random said, I need you to step right here, and I was at the front of the vehicle. Yes.
And where was Officer Random when,
He was standing next to Officer Booth. Officer Booth was on his knees, looking on the floorboard of the car.
Okay. And Officer Random was doing what?
Standing next to the car.
Was he searching your purse?
I wasn't, taking too much, time to see what they were, looking at or whatever.
Okay.
I wasn't being too concerned with what they were doing in my car.
Now, up until this point, they didn't tell you were under arrest, right?
Correct.
They didn't tell you couldn't leave, right?
Correct.
Now, at some point, Officer Random walks back up to you at the front of the car. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know, it may be speculation, do you know why Officer Random approached you again?
Yes, because I put a piece of gum in my mouth, and he looked out of the corner of his eye and said, she's got drugs, she's got drugs. And then he called for Officer Booth, and next thing you know, I was flipped upside down on the ground with my head slammed into the pavement, and Officer Random's hand was on my neck, and his knee was in the middle of my back.
Okay. We agree, don't we, that Officer Random's the one who took you to the ground, correct?
Correct.
Because at that point, Officer Booth was still on his hands and knees searching your car, right?
I couldn't tell you what he was doing at that time.
And you had put a piece of gum in your mouth, correct?
Correct.
And
Once Officer Random said, oh, she's got drugs, then Officer Booth had got up from the car and came over and assisted Officer Random
okay.
to get the alleged drugs out of my mouth.
Now, didn't Officer Random ask you, what do you have in your mouth?
Yes.
And you said nothing, right?
Yeah.
Why would you say nothing? If you had
Because
gum
none
in
of his
your mouth?
business. Because he's approached me before and he's harassed me, so
So
I was just being kind of like, really, it was
Fine.
not his business, yeah.
Okay. So Officer Random asks, what's in your mouth? You say nothing. He
Yeah.
asks to see, right?
I don't recall.
Okay, so go back a second. Officer Random says, what's in your mouth? You say,
Nothing.
okay. He asks, can I see, open your mouth. Does he say that?
I don't recall.
But you were being defined. How were you being defined?
By telling him nothing, by saying nothing.
Okay. Now, do you recall one way or the other whether or not he asked you to open your mouth?
I don't recall.
Okay. Would you have opened your mouth if he had asked you to?
That calls for speculation.
You don't recall there being several commands by Officer Random to open your mouth?
No, I don't recall.
Now, what happens when you what happens when you don't open your mouth?
I was already on the ground, and they kept saying, open your mouth, open your mouth. Well, he had his hand around my neck like this, so he wouldn't even know if my mouth was open or not. And the next thing you know, Officer Booth comes over and sticks a flashlight in my mouth and pries it open. So if I had something in my mouth, it would have came out.
Now, at any point during, let me ask you, how long do you think elapsed between Officer Random yelling, she's got drugs in her mouth? What'd you say? She's got dope in her mouth?
I I don't know what
Something she-
drugs, dope, something, I don't know.
He said something like she's got dope in her mouth.
Yeah, something to that reference.
And he was saying loud enough where our Officer Booth responded,
Yeah,
right?
and alerted him to, basically stop what he was doing, come over and assist him.
Okay, all right. And about how much time elapsed between that statement by Officer Random and Officer Booth coming over?
And kicking me in the head, or before Officer Random came to assist Officer Random?
Before he arrived at where your body was positioned?
Probably within seconds of Officer Random taking me down.
Now, did it occur to you that maybe it was a good idea to spit out the gum at that point and show him it was just gum?
Yeah, I think I'd already swallowed it by then, but I don't know. It should have been there somewhere. I had the wrapper in my pocket. Everything just happened so quick.
Did you say anything to the officers at any point before Officer Booth came over?
I couldn't even talk.
Okay, well, before he allegedly had your knee in your back, did you try to say anything?
I couldn't even breathe, much less talk.
Before Officer Random allegedly put his knee in your back, did you say anything to Officer Random to try to prevent him from continuing his actions?
Yeah, I told him nothing was in my mouth.
Okay, well, that wasn't true, was it?
No, I used a gun, and like
Okay.
we had discussed, I was being defiant because he had stopped me previous other times. And yes, I probably should have told him I had gum in my mouth, but I didn't. So.
And you could have spit out the gum to show him you had gum in your mouth, correct?
Correct.
So Officer Random would have no way of knowing that what you had in your mouth was gum, would he?
Object calls for speculation.
Also, you didn't open your mouth with Officer Random, so you couldn't see what's in your mouth, correct?
No,
I'm correct.
you're correct.
Good. Okay. Now, so about how far away from your vehicle, your boyfriend's vehicle, what have you, were you at the point that Officer Random allegedly had his knee in your back and had you on the ground?
I don't know. I have no idea. Like I said, I don't know the feed. I can't tell you the exact
Okay.
distance. It's from when I was standing at the front of the car until Officer Random came over and flew me down on the ground. Flipped me up, slammed me down on the ground. So, I mean, from the car to the ground. So maybe the length of my body, I don't know.
It's going to be
I can't
tough.
tell you.
It might be tough to put into words. Can you describe to me how he took you to the ground?
I honestly don't recall. I just remember being like turned upside down and slammed on the ground. So, not like picked up, not like a wrestling move, but like, just slammed down on the ground.
Okay. Did you hit your head?
Yes.
Did you hit your face plant?
My face was slammed in the concrete on the pavement, yes.
Okay. By Random.
Yes.
Now, when the officers came up, I'm sorry. I need to take a break. I'm sorry. Thank you. What?
How much time?
I don't know, but it shouldn't be long. I just need it. I'm sorry.